All
There's
right.
Brennan.
What's up,
Awesome.
man? You got the same drink as last week.
I got both my essentials, the cold brew and the agua.
Nice. Yeah, I got my good old morning tonic with tonic herbs and maca and a little coffee and all the good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
How do you define a tonic?
It's interesting because you have tonic in like the bar world, which is like a tonic, which is like sparkling water and all this stuff.
Right. Yeah,
But in the
that's how I think
East,
of it.
yeah, it's in the East, it's categorized by tonic herbs, which are herbs that tonify your system, which like
Mm.
bring balance to your liver and kidneys and are super medicinal. So I'll make you one day. I'm semi-renowned for my tonics.
You got to make me one in Fiji, bro.
Yeah, I'm down.
Drink our tonics on a hammock.
Yeah.
We'll do part 5 from the hammocks in Fiji for you guys.
Yeah. Tonic talk, fireside chat.
Tonic talk. Now that's a podcast right there.
Well, yeah, because we'll get nice and high in a really grounded way
Yes.
from tonic herbs, and yeah, it flows.
That'll be a fun experience in and of itself.
Yeah.
So as I was saying before Brandon jumped on, we're doing part 3 today. We talked about the wounded masculine last week, and we tried to cover kind of all the basics of how the wounded masculine gets wounded, how it shows up in like partnerships especially, and in singleness, and then how the wounded masculine can begin healing. So in following that conversation today, we're going to talk more about the sacred masculine, the empowered masculine, what that looks like, and how you can recognize those qualities in yourself as they are arising, and how we can see the balance between masculine and feminine really coming into harmony with each other, which is really what sacred masculinity is embracing the inner feminine. So you ready to kick it off?
Yeah, let's kick it off.
Okay, so Brandon and I, in talking about this, wanted to come up with like, just to deliver this as straightforward as we can, what would be like the top 5 qualities of the sacred masculine. And now we talked about how, in the first call, we talked about how the form and the function of each polarity is reversed in the masculine and the feminine. So the feminine form is positive in the sense that it is just that unconditional love of the creator that just radiates and gives itself totally selflessly. That's the positive. But then the feminine performs that in the function of the negative by absorbing itself in. The power of love takes you into itself, and love does not violate free will or force itself on anyone, because that's unloving. So the feminine doesn't push itself, but allows you to come to it in its true function. So that's the feminine. The masculine is the opposite of that. The masculine form is the negative, because masculine seeks to know, to understand, to possess with knowledge, wisdom, right? But the function of that, how it performs that, is positive in that it gives itself. It's light, illumination, understanding. So each one serves the opposite role in form and function. And when we understand that, we can see how it should and does play out in a healthy, conscious relationship that's balanced. So, and did you want to add anything there, Brandon, before we go to the points?
Nope, let's do it.
Okay. So now that we have that kind of groundwork laid, in talking about the sacred masculine, the first point we came up with is, when you think of the empowered masculine, you should think of, number 1, groundedness. We think about, the wise sages and yogis and swamis, how they are always living in that state of inner silence, groundedness with reality, grounded in reality, ability to see through illusions. And so in a conscious partnership with a sacred masculine, whether that's a male or a female, doesn't matter, but let's just use the typical heterosexual relationship as an easy example. A man who's in his grounded, empowered masculine is not going to be easily swayed by illusions. They're able to see the truth in the situation. They're not quick to react, but they're grounded in reality, right?
Yeah, really, really good. So many times the ego, especially for men that are still maybe experiencing some imbalance, will go, okay, now I need to go learn how to become grounded. Let me go take a course. Let me go get all the knowledge on it. You know what I mean? And then it's like, oh, I know it all, but then it happens again. And now I'm even more upset because I know what I should be doing, but yet feel totally incapable of doing it. And that's what I call like having the wisdom without the compassion. because I cannot be grounded in the storm of the feminine if I have not went to those depths myself. So it's like, it can be an initiation in of itself to allow and to just be and witness the expression of maybe suffering or pain or fear or anger. But if those are completely unresolved in me, I will automatically, as a reflex, find fault in this person, lose the sense of who I am, which is the definition of being ungrounded.
Yeah.
I'm grounded when I know who I am, and I'm ungrounded when I think I am what I'm experiencing in my mind.
That is so good. I am grounded when I know who I am. That's powerful. So groundedness, if we wanted to add some other words to help us contextualize it, we could think of patience is a quality of being grounded. Having resolve is a quality of being grounded. And, tranquility, inner peace, stability is a quality of groundedness. So those are masculine oriented qualities.
Yeah. And I'd say with patience, presence, really pretty much the same thing. But I just want to speak to this paradox, because I always think this is like a point of power to get to for anyone. If I'm okay with myself being not grounded in the feminine's presence, paradoxically, then I will start to ground myself. So what does that mean? It's like, I'm getting really upset. I'm taking all of this personal. I cannot hold space for you right now. If I'm putting pressure to go, I need to be the sacred masculine, that's coming from the wounded masculine.
There you go.
So it's like, if I can love myself in the toxicity, if you want to call it that, not a fan of that word really, but it's used a lot. If I can love myself genuinely,
every time I get
over. Dude,
that was a good point. It knocked me straight over.
I was in the phone. Oh man.
Every time I get a text, my phone vibrates and slips off this little box.
I'm gonna buy you one of these stands.
I just need to get on Amazon today, right?
Yeah. So it's like, that's the paradox, is if I can genuinely love myself in the toxicity, that implies understanding. If I'm loving that aspect of myself, understanding comes next. Oh, this is why I did it, because I felt powerless, because I felt out of control, because I felt like you thought I was weak and small and tiny. And in that self-inquiry and understanding, if you can, as a man, see that as okay and innocent and love that part of you, that bursts the understanding. And that understanding is required to be grounded when someone forgets their understanding.
Yeah, that's so good. I guess another easy way we could see that then is that when we talk about healing, feminine oriented healing would be shadow work, feeling the emotion out of the body. Masculine oriented healing would be like non-duality, the wisdom and understanding of truth versus illusion. And in understanding the difference, the interest in the illusion drops away and the masculine detaches from it. So I have this analogy I love for this that just works really well. If you imagine a house, the house represents you. The feminine, let's say the house is flooded with water, right? The water is the emotion, the traumas, the stored energy in the system. So the masculine, so the feminine heals by opening the doors, letting the water pour out of the house, we could say. The masculine heals by turning the faucets off, right? The masculine stops what caused the trauma by understanding it. Like, that's the wisdom aspect of the masculine, which is the second quality we have. The second quality would be comprehension or wisdom. The masculine stops those faucets, those entry points of energy from flowing in by understanding them and then transcending them. So both play an important role, right? If you have a lot of trapped energy in the body from traumas and things, well, the function of the masculine can't clear that out. The feminine has to clear that out by feeling it, allowing it, right? Loving it. But then the masculine prevents those traumas from resurfacing again by transcending them, right? So both are equally necessary. Because if you just have feminine without the masculine, you become that perpetual shadow worker. Right? You're just always doing shadow work because you have the same illusions creating traumas and creating energy. But the masculine overcomes those through wisdom and understanding.
Yeah, that's so good. And it's like, I think the Law of One talks about this too, is like really pursuing the wisdom and understanding without the compassion and vulnerability and authenticity will, at least in my experience, invite negativity, like invite manipulation, invite cynicism, exactly, because then it ultimately will create, at least in my experience, more powerlessness. Man, I know all of this, but I still feel like crap. So now I feel even worse. And I think there's a reason or a fractal here as to why you have the heart center and the wisdom center in this order, because through the embracing of the emotion, does the wisdom actually get grounded in?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not true wisdom or understanding unless there's first compassion and love, right?
Right.
That really is true understanding in a sense. And so without it, you're sort of skipping an important step when you try to just go straight to understanding, but you don't have love yet, then you haven't really understood it yet.
Yeah. Its
purpose.
Yep. Well, I think we nailed that one. You ready for the next?
That one's obvious and easy. The third one, though, is actually another kind of obvious one, which is strength. And we have strength as defined as willpower. Think of like the inner warrior of the masculine. When that inner warrior is distorted and unhealed, it becomes the power over, domination, conquering, like the tyrant or the warlord. But when it's empowered in its sacred masculinity, it becomes power for the feminine. So it becomes like, now I use this analogy of the polarities a lot because it's easy to understand it. We talked about the feminine form is positive, masculine form is negative. Well, even just in basic metaphysics, the negative polarity is that which like is always pushing the positive from behind. Or the negative and the positive, they repel. And because they repel, negative pushes the positive, which is how the evolution of consciousness is motivated, right? When we suffer, when we feel pain, we're motivated to seek for healing and love and understanding. So without the negative, there's no motivation or momentum at all to do those things. So the masculine in its power serves the feminine, it supports the feminine, it's power for the feminine, and that strength becomes exalted to its highest expression.
That's so good, dude. And I'll just talk about the polarity of strength that we talked about before. This is like, of course, one of the wounded masculine archetypes is the fixer. And you could say that kind of comes from a place of almost fearing to be ungrounded, which is the same as saying fearing to be vulnerable. So I need to make sure you're not vulnerable, so it doesn't remind me of how much I don't want to be vulnerable. So let me just get in there and change it real quick so I could feel better. And it's really this like protection mechanism, right?
Yeah.
So that fixer archetype will, in a sense, experience the opposite of what we're defining as strength, is if they think it's their job to resolve the feminine.
Yeah.
And in doing so, they'll feel attached to outcomes. They'll say, I feel you have to heal. And man, I've been there. It's like, I'm doing my healing, so you got to do your healing too. Come on, I'm doing it. You got to do it. You should do it. Look at your stuff.
If you love me, you'll do it.
Yeah. And it's just, oh man, it's so painful. So the one expression of true strength, obviously the power for, which also goes, I see the strength within you where I know you can figure this out. I know I'm not your salvation. I know I can't ultimately give you what you're looking for, but I can be the example of it to the best that I can, which is to love you right now. But that also means if I'm dealing with someone who is completely closed to healing, I want my story, I want to be right. They are wrong. I am a victim. And that continues, and you are genuinely in a place of unconditional love and groundedness and centeredness, and they're simply using their free will to go, I'm going to hold on to this. True strength sometimes looks like walking away and not holding on to the guilt that you're somehow depriving them, because that could send the masculine into this whole pattern of going, I can't live my life and be empowered until you are. And then you're the one actually contributing to their disempowerment by matching that frequency.
Yeah, so good, man. if we look at the law of one, the way they describe the chakras or the densities, the fourth chakra is the heart chakra, the love density, and that is a very feminine oriented density where it's constant service to others in fourth density. That's how the fourth density polarizes towards the fifth. The fifth density is a very masculine oriented density where there's a lot of introspection, isolation, what's the word? It starts with an S. Solitude is a big part of fifth density, and that's very masculine, right? To get grounded in that wisdom, to understand reality. And so in that sense, we talked about this, Brandon, like the nature of the masculine is to want to understand, wanting to experience love. The masculine wants to experience love. The feminine wants to be seen and understood by wisdom. So again, using the traditional heterosexual romantic relationship, just because it's the easiest one, the woman always wants to be understood by her man. He sees me, he gets me, right? That's what they say when they really feel adored and loved by the masculine. And the man just wants to experience the feminine's love. He wants to experience her and feel her energy, connect with her. And that's how he gets his fulfillment. So in any relationship dynamic, again, both the male and the female need to be equally balanced in their masculine and feminine. So we could say that whenever you are in that space of wanting to be seen and understood by your partner, you could say you're in your feminine then. You're opening up to be received by your partner. And when you want to experience your partner and feel them and all of that stuff, you're in your masculine. So you can see how both are super needed, right? In a relationship, if there's one partner just playing one of the roles, but they're disempowered in the other polarity, it will eventually burn out, right? It's like a circuit that doesn't have that cyclical repetition any longer, so it's not recharging either side. One side's getting charged, the other side's getting depleted.
So good. And it reminds me of this, like one of the core wounds of humanity, if you want to call it, this abandonment wound. And it's so interesting because I feel the feminine, the core wounds of the wounded feminine is the fear of abandonment.
Yes, classic.
Yep. And the man is such a perpetuator in the wounded masculine of the abandonment. Oh, you're too much, you're too crazy. I'm out. I'm going to go find it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So you have this, when meeting that with understanding from the masculine perspective, it's about them understanding, maybe not necessarily saying it yet, but understanding that they can never be abandoned by God, but they can actually never be abandoned. And the embodiment of that goes, I'm going to be that right now, which is love. Yes. I can never lose love. So I'm going to be that with my action. I don't need an inappropriate response would be, man, I'm just afraid of you leaving me. Well, you can never be abandoned by God. So why are you afraid of that? That doesn't do anything. It's just, right. I understand that you're afraid of that. That's all right. I'm right here.
Yeah.
But what it doesn't mean, because this has been such a really beautiful edge of healing in my relationship, is that I can give someone a false sense of security, perpetuating the abandonment wound. Meaning if, Ashley says to me, are you going to be with me? I just want to know you want to be with me for the rest of your life. And in that moment, I have a choice. Do I want to make her feel good, or do I want to tell the truth? And this is where it's like, when done with compassion, can actually liberate the abandonment wound and can liberate the masculine from thinking that they need to basically tell the future and keep giving this sense of security, like that's their job, where it happens naturally when they're in just a loving space. Yeah. That's the nature of love. So my response to that is I cannot know the future. Can you know the future? She's no, I can't know the future, but I want to know. And it's like, right now in this moment, I am in love with you. I want to be with you. That's the truth right now. And what's going to happen in the future, if I think about and worry about what's going to happen in the future, I will leave you in the now. And I don't want to do that to you.
Right. That's so good.
I don't want to, sacrifice the love and the presence that I'm giving you right now by worrying about the future. So I don't even need to think about it, because if I did, I'd be creating it
Yeah.
right now. I would be, what do I avoid? I create. So I am just with you here, and I love you now, and I want to be with you. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, there was no external security given, but yet I feel so secure.
Yeah. That's so good, man. Because the masculine ultimately cares about truth. The masculine serves truth and is subservient always to truth. So, because truth is an attribute of love. Love is the one and only truth there is. So the masculine, in wanting to know the feminine and serve the feminine, love, it wants to always serve truth. So it's not wrong if your partner does have an issue like that, where they fear abandonment and they need your constant validation. You're not going to leave me, right? You're not going to leave me, right? It's not wrong to say, well, in this moment, my truth is that, or my intention is that. I absolutely want to be with you forever, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in this relationship. But I don't want that to be where you get your security from, because I see that that's a fear coming from a fear of abandonment. And I want you to love yourself enough that it doesn't matter if I'm here forever or not. Exactly. So it's true for me. Yes, I want to be with you. That's why I'm here. But that can't be your support or your security.
Yeah, exactly. Because how much in life are we just taught? Happy wife, happy life. Just agree, nod your head, say yes, reinforce all the stuff.
Yeah.
But then they just keep looping, and no one's actually happy. No one's actually progressing. So to initiate the progression is usually the masculine's natural, form.
Yep. The love always empowers. It does not placate, right? So you never want to placate your partner if you love them. You want to empower them to love themselves. So that's an important point, man.
Epic.
So I guess just to wrap that one up, a couple of qualities we could also use to help us contextualize this. For strength, we could think of perseverance is a quality of strength. We talked about willpower. We talked about, or we haven't talked about, like defenselessness. Like true strength is not needing to defend yourself. That's a quality of the masculine.
That's so big.
Yeah. Anything else that comes to your mind?
The strength to let someone have their own process and not need to be the one that like rectifies it. You can actually walk away without pulling your love away, without closing off. That is a total art in of itself.
Yeah.
I see right now that this is something that you just need to be with. Am I right? Is that true? Yeah, I just think I need to be with this. Okay, I'm going to keep doing my thing. Let me know if you need anything. Because the moment I sacrifice the things that are my passion and inspiration, or the things that are just coming through me, if my intention is, well, I got to be here because of your healing, it's my job, so I'm going to go not do the things in my life that bring me joy. That's what I'm teaching. I'm teaching that she can't do that if I need space held. So that takes the strength. And then one thing you said, just the defenselessness, it's strength because it reinforces, why am I in this relationship anyway? To heal where I'm defensive, to heal where I'm wounded. So my strength isn't like, I just need to persevere and take it. I just need to take all of this emotion. It's like, I realize that surrendering to that emotion as the function of this relationship is what gives me strength, is what makes me feel strong. Whereas not surrendering to it, defending it, actually makes me feel weak.
Yes. Course in Miracles says, anything that needs defense you do not want, for anything that needs defense will weaken you. So when you talked about the abandonment thing, why does the masculine abandon the feminine? Because leaving a relationship does not mean abandonment, right? If you do it in a conscious, loving way with, you're speaking truth, you're opening yourself to the feminine, being receptive, and then saying, this just isn't a match, but I wish you well. That's not abandonment, right? Abandonment is ditching out on your partner, right? When things get hard, you ghost them, you leave because it's too difficult to stay. Why? Because the masculine is weak. It's too weak to persevere. So that perseverance, patience isn't there. And so the masculine fears the vulnerability that, like a typical example is when if the masculine accidentally, or if a man accidentally knocks up the woman, then they'll leave because that's being a father. Oh, that's requiring a whole lot of vulnerability from me. I'm not there yet. That's scary to me. So they
Yeah.
ditch out, right? It's
Yeah.
weakness.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then moving to the fourth point, we have discipline. Now, you could say this is an attribute of strength, of course, but there's a little more nuances to discipline that we wanted to touch on. And so I think what we talked about that helps us to see this easiest is that, again, using the traditional heterosexual marriage role, what's the typical role of the mother and the father with their parenting? The mother is typically the sweet, compassionate, tender, loving one who lets their children get away with stuff and all that. But the father doesn't let the kids get away with anything, right? He's the one who the mom is like, when dad gets home, you're going to get disciplined. Because the mom doesn't want to do it, right? She's so unconditionally loving towards her kids, like they can do no wrong in her eyes. But the masculine, and that's not wrong, right? That's the innocence of love. But the masculine in its wisdom knows, yes, but that's not the best for my children in the long run to let them get away with this stuff. They need to learn, they need to be taught, they need to have discipline, right? So the father is the one who typically teaches the hard lessons and talks about the challenges of life and teaches the wisdom to their children and, you know, cracks the whip when necessary. Because truthfully, when it's from an empowered, loving place, it's all done from love, right? The father knows that this is what's best for them in the long term, and that's kind of what discipline represents, right? Being able to see the big picture and do the difficult thing now for the long-term benefits down the road, right? We could call that discipline. So for me, I always say that true discipline is just seeing where true value lies, right? When you see where value lies, discipline happens naturally as a result of that.
Yeah, I love that you said that at the end, because so many times, here we go again, my ego, how do I become more disciplined? Let me get a course on it. Let me go sleep on the ground and just, I even had a buddy of mine one time go, what I do if I don't hit my goals? I make myself sleep on the ground and I can only eat rice and drink water for the next week. And that disciplines me to force this and that. And that's not discipline.
Sounds
That's
like
called
punishment.
punishment. That's called like being, what's it called? Like masochistic,
Yeah.
like if I don't do it, I get pain. So
Yeah.
that's not discipline.
And that'd be the wounded masculine then, right?
Exactly.
To overly discipline your children.
Exactly. To go, I think I know how you need to be. And if you're not, it's bad. And if you are, it's good. It's like there's duality there where this higher level of discipline is more from wisdom, but there's no need to control it. There's no need to have an expectation that says if you fail, that's wrong or bad, because that would just be met with compassion and it would further the wisdom teaching. Oh, look, this happened again. Remember the thing that we talked about? Oh, look, you experience it now. Great. You probably now really know it. Great. Now go do what you're going to do. I'm just that reminder, But like you said, discipline arises from understanding. I understand why I'm here. What is my purpose? And will really speak to men. What is my purpose? Takes you really back to the question of, well, who am I? Because who I think I am is going to determine what I think I'm here to do. It's going to motivate me. So when I can come to this place of, oh, my purpose is to become more of my true self, my essence, right? Which is to let go of these concepts of self, then I realize any time that I'm afraid is just a moment of death to concepts, a moment of death to personality, a moment of death that is actually here to liberate me, to free me. So I look forward to anything in the relationship that can bring that up. And my discipline arises because I see that as valuable. Like you said, this is the most valuable thing. It almost becomes selfish for my growth and spirituality.
Yes.
So I just have to be filled with gratitude and completely surrender to it, because what's the point of fighting it? When I realize there's no point, I end it. And I just go, you know what? You're right. You know what? Oh man, I see that within me. And almost every time, feminine is right. Not always, but most of the time it's like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right. There it is. I see it. And it's like, we just start agreeing, and that ends the war.
Right. Well, everyone's right from their own point of view, and the masculine in its empowered wisdom understands that. So that's why it doesn't fight or get triggered or react,
Mm,
because it has the wisdom to know that everyone's right from their own point of view. It's not
right.
about who's right, who's wrong. It's about how can I understand your point of view and then show you mine in a loving way, and we can find the middle ground or whatever. So this is where we can get into a really important point here about discipline that you just touched on. Another word for discipline we could say is the far-sightedness, seeing the big picture. And so it's really like the disciplining the children analogy. It's sort of like delaying, or sorry, not delaying, not looking or overlooking short-term gratification for
Mm,
long-term benefit, seeing the
mm-hmm.
big picture, right? And so an example of this for me is like many years ago, I've never done well with alcohol. My body doesn't respond well to alcohol. It makes my stomach hurt. I'll have digestive problems. It makes me, it's like a sleeping pill. The moment I drink alcohol, my body just gets tired and lethargic. Like my body rejects it in every way. And then I won't sleep that whole night. I'll get like 1 hour of sleep, wide awake, can't fall asleep. It makes my skin get red. Like it's just not good. But I was still saying yes to, hey, you want a White Claw? Hey, you want a Marg or whatever in social settings. And because I wanted the short-term gratification of being included or feeling like I'm one of the guys or whatever, I was saying no to myself to say yes to short-term gratification when really inside, I don't want to drink alcohol. I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't offer me anything I want. And so I just kept saying yes for long enough to where it was creating internal conflict. And that conflict it bubbled up to the surface enough to where I just went, all right, I can't do this anymore. I feel so shitty every time I say yes to a drink that I don't actually want, just so I can feel like I fit in. And I realized it was actually the yes to the alcohol was the no to myself.
Mm,
So I changed the way I
mm-hmm.
saw it, and I was like, actually saying no to alcohol is a yes to myself. So
Mm,
all of a sudden, it wasn't a restriction for me, like, oh, it's off limits, boo-hoo. No, 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 it wasn't a lack thing. It was an abundance thing. It was an empowering thing. And so I started to say no to alcohol, and seeing that response from people like, oh, are you sure? Like, come on, man, we're all drinking. You sure you don't want one? I'm like, no, I'm sure. Thank you, though. I could start to recognize like, oh, they're all caught in this thing where they all feel like we need everyone to drink with us so we feel like we're all included. And if you say no, then that's kind of like reminding me that maybe I shouldn't be drinking as much. And I started to see these dynamics in people that they wanted me to drink for them, not for me. And all of a sudden, my no became so expansive, man. Every time I would say no to alcohol, I would feel like so empowered on the inside. It was like fun. It was exciting.
yes.
It felt right. And so that's where discipline is not punishment. Like I was punishing myself initially by saying no. Oh, I shouldn't do it, but I really want to, but I'm denying it from myself. That's not discipline, right? You're not seeing where the value really is. It was only when I saw alcohol doesn't offer me anything I want, it doesn't feel good to say yes to it, then it became discipline in the sense that it was effortless because I
Mm,
understood where the value was in it. True strength, true discipline in the empowered masculine is an effortless strength and an effortless discipline.
yes. And just to put that in such a nice little bow, it's like discipline, true discipline. The process of implementing the discipline, the process itself creates freedom versus let me discipline myself or punish myself to create freedom.
Yeah.
So it's like you realized, oh, wait, kind of like what we said on the last call, I actually don't want what I want, what I think I want. But you had some sort of shift in perception of like, I'm doing this to belong. Who would I be without that thought? Maybe I would just belong without the alcohol. And now it's like, what feels more me, letting myself belong or taking some sort of step, having some sort of permission to belong? Oh, I feel more expanded just belonging, just being myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so the process itself of not drinking, like you said, is effortless. The process
Yeah.
itself is joyful. That's how you know when you're tapping into true discipline. And I could totally testify to this, Aaron. I got invited to a bar. This was probably 3 years ago now for a friend's birthday, and immediately had some judgment up because to that point, I hadn't been to a bar in like 4 years probably. So I'm like, but this, I've also kind of integrated those things. Like a bar means nothing. What? It's a bar. Okay, I'll go.
A bar is a bar.
Yeah, I love my friend, so I'll go hang out with him. And I'm the only one not drinking. And I have people come up to me that are all part of the friend group. Why are you not drinking?
Yeah.
Were you like an alcoholic or something? And I go, no,
Right.
I just don't want to drink. And they go, oh, okay. So like, what do you do? And they, all of a sudden there's this like curiosity, like you're the one person doing something different. And we start talking on this whole nother level. The frequency changed so much, we had to go outside. So we go outside, and now their friends start coming out, and their friends start coming out. There's now a circle of like 10 of us outside, and they're just asking me questions. And I'm like, well, I'll answer. And
became a guru all of a sudden.
Right? All of a sudden I realized that's how I belonged.
That's your message too.
Yeah, it's like me being that person that wasn't belonging is how I, in that unique situation, was actually designed to belong. Because I ended up talking to this kid in a pizza shop next door, and he ended up just sobbing in my arms about his mother.
Wow.
And things he never told anyone. And I ended up like paying for this event coming up that he really wanted to go to, and it ended up being this source of like service and connection and friendship. And I left that bar going, oh, that was the best experience I ever had. And it was effortless. It was effortless for me. I just had to finally give up all the effort of trying to not be me.
Yeah. It all started by you saying yes to your truth.
Yeah.
Which is like this is what authenticity is. Authenticity could also be seen as a masculine quality. Authenticity is your ability to radiate your truest self regardless of the actions of the other. So in the party setting, when someone offers you the drug or the whatever, the alcohol, and you genuinely don't want to do it because you know it doesn't serve you spiritually, physically, whatever, but you say yes to it to want to fit in, this is what ego does. It interprets everything through lack, and then it punishes you for that lack. So the way it wants to get rid of the lack is by giving in, by saying no to yourself, by saying yes to the other. Every time you do that, you violate yourself, right? You betray yourself. And those things add up in the system. And it's a good thing that they add up because, like we talked about, they get you to the point where you say, I can't keep doing this anymore. And you have that shift in perception. But the shift truly only happens when it's an empowered shift of you see that it's actually a yes to say no to something, not a no. It's not a rejection. It's not a punishment. It's actually an expansive thing. And so this gets into our fifth point of the masculine qualities, which would be selflessness. And so selflessness can be seen in the archetype of the knight in shining armor that fights the dragon to save the princess or whatever. It's like it's not afraid to risk its life. It thinks no thought of itself because it wants to know love. It wants to experience love. So the masculine, when it empowers the feminine, is selfless. Even the father disciplining the children, the father, a truly empowered, loving father, doesn't like to do it. It's not doing it because it's fun. It actually hurts the father to punish the children, right? But the father does it because it's selfless. It's willing to take that momentary pain of like, oh, this is so uncomfortable disciplining my kids. I hate seeing them cry or feel bad, but it's the discipline to know the long-term benefit of that lesson that you're teaching them. And so the masculine gives itself or sacrifices itself for the sake of love. So that's an important quality.
Yeah, I love that. I don't have too much more to say on that one.
We covered it then, huh?
Yeah.
The discipline and the selflessness to me they coincide so closely. They're such important attributes of what it means to be in your sacred masculine. The masculine can show up. It shows up relentlessly because it's not in it for itself. It's in it for the sake of love, for the sake of the other, for its partner.
Yeah.
And so that's you see how the woman in the relationship needs that too, and not just the man. They both have to have an equal balance of both polarities because both polarities exalt one another when they're met in the right vibration.
Yeah. I guess just to tie up the selflessness, it's like when I recognize that I can't do this alone, and when I say that, it doesn't mean I can't go off into a cave and do it alone. I can, but there's still going to be other selves, even if it's in the form of the cave that I'm in. So it's like, I'm just in a world of reflection. And if I can have peace with you, I can have peace with all reflection. This was actually in the notes. I'm glad we're getting to this.
Yeah.
Becoming selfless through relationship, which I really see as like the embracing of the death to love. Like I'm just dying to the love over and over and over again until I can't find a reason to blame or judge you for anything. This is why I'm in this relationship, not to get, not to gain, but this process. And you can call that enlightenment. And so as I'm going through that process, it's like, if I can arrive at a place where my sense of peace cannot be thrown off by anything this other person does, I've just shown the world what world peace could look like, because my world is completely at peace. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. So people go, man, how do you create world peace? It's like, well, if one relationship can become holy, right, or whole or complete in that sense of being completely at peace and whole with each other and in balance, then nothing from that union can create unto itself suffering unto others. It just can't. Yeah. It's impossible. So it's like one does it, and because it's so powerful, and really the definition of power is just efficient. How much more reserves do you have when you're in love? Your telepathy is on, your psychic ability, your energy, your immune system. Like you just become the most ultra efficient being. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what our evolution looks like. A bunch of people in really great relationships.
Yeah. There's a phrase I love that talks about peace and joy, how they're really the same thing. I don't remember who says this, but it says, joy is peace in motion. Peace is joy at rest. And so, isn't that a great quote?
Yeah.
So when we look at like the Eastern traditions of Hinduism and Buddhism, Hinduism is a much more, and it's pretty actually balanced between masculine and feminine. Christianity or Western religion would be very much more feminine, where there's not a lot of wisdom, let's be honest, but there's a whole lot of love and devotion to God. I mean, that was my whole spiritual practice, was love and worship, love and worship. Our theology was an absolute mess, a total, you know what. But our bhakti was very strong. We would spend hours in worship and adoring God. But so the Eastern traditions of Buddhism and Hinduism, Buddhism doesn't really have almost any devotion or like love for the divine. It doesn't even use the word God. It's purely like a wisdom philosophy, but it brings peace of mind and groundedness. You know, I have the Buddha behind me. It's like that grounded peace of mind that's unbroken, unmovable. That's a masculine quality. And so you could say that peace is like the masculine expression of love. Joy is like the feminine expression of love. Joy is like amplified peace, and that amplifying, that charging up is the feminine power. But then the groundedness of that joy and keeping it in reality, rooted in reality, is the peace. So you got to have both, right?
Yeah. And I love how Ra talks about, because he speaks to this when they were really worried about the instrument and how to support the instrument. And Ra was like, the vital energy of this instrument is enhanced from this instrument's devotion to worship and appreciation and gratitude and for the creator and music. So a couple of those things, music and the practices of devotion, like the singing, the actually active practices, Ra was essentially alluding to, that is what is generating the life force or can expand the life force. It's like the peace is I'm like in a bigger container now. I know who I am, and now what do I want to do with that? I really want to experience like a radical expression of life force. And what does that look like? It's like these physical expressions, and that could look like you and I doing this live right now. For us, this is like building our life force, not because of the form, but because of the nature of the form for us, because of how we feel and the inspiration and the connectedness that we feel.
Yeah. It's to be anchored, to have stability, being rooted and grounded in love is peace. So it really is, they are the same thing, the two polarities. It's just one great energy experiencing itself. But I'm endlessly in love with the contrast of masculine and feminine and the way that they play together. It's such a beautiful dance the divine is doing. And in order for there to be a true dance between dance partners, there has to be two partners, right? to be in that dance together. So we all need equal masculine and feminine.
Yeah. Yeah. And last thing I'll say, I want to give the definition of charity of the spirit, because I know we kind of covered it, but I love this term.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the most challenging things for the wounded masculine to give to the feminine. And I'm the guiltiest of all of this. It's been really challenging for me. And when I'm able to do it, it's the most fulfilling. Charity of the spirit is a term from A Course in Miracles, and it says, essentially, I'm going to see you in a way where you can't see yourself. And that means I'm seeing you without your past. It means I'm seeing beyond what I know about you. I'm seeing beyond what you think you know about you, because I actually know that that's not true, that these are just concepts, and that the true you, I don't even know yet, but I know it's magnificent, it's powerful, it's indestructible, it's infinite. Yeah. So in the midst of this storm, I'm going to see you further along than you see yourself. I'm going to see you as that. And that could simply just, like in this moment, that could just be something that arises as a thought in the middle of an interaction. And you simply decide to let go of how you think you're seeing them. It's not like, let me not, while you're talking, visualize you as a white light, you know, and they're like, hey, are you even listening? You're like, I'm trying to see you as the Christ. No, it's like, it's like,
it's not how it works.
Yeah, it's like, I'm questioning who I think you are as you are telling me who you, it's like, man, I'm just so, I'm this and I'm that. And for me, I'm going, I can't find where that's a fact. It's true in your experience. It's like, this is a real experience you're having and it's valid, but I can't find a reason to believe that that's who you are. So I just pierce it. I just pierce right through it. And it could literally look like I'm just gazing and I'm just being there. Yeah. And that's the charity of the spirit.
Yeah. Well, we just had a question pop up along that lines, which is someone saying, what do we do? How do we get into a relationship with someone who has wounded masculine and feminine, or how do we stay in that relationship? And, giving your partner that charity to be where they are and to love them where they are, to meet them where they are and have that be okay, is a big part of a conscious partnership, because the whole point of it is evolution. It's not, we're here to be at the finish line. No, we're here to run the race together, right? There really isn't a finish line. The race is the finish line. The journey is the destination. And so a conscious partnership is just the acknowledgement of that. It's just about finding that balance of, is this person, if their distortions are extreme enough, they're going to show up as abuse, manipulation, lying, disloyalty. So if those things are going on, it would be unloving treatment towards yourself to subject yourself to that treatment, and unloving towards your partner to perpetuate their abuse. Mm-hmm. So love in that relationship would say, hey, this isn't the match right now. There's no loss in love. We are one. I'm not losing you. You're not losing me. We're doing what is of the highest benefit for both, which a lot of times means we should leave the relationship. But if you're in a relationship or a partnership where there's issues present, but you're both working towards them and using one another to reflect those issues, like you're my mirror, you trigger the things in me that need healing, I will trigger the things in you that need healing, without a doubt, it's inevitable. And then we're able to meet each other in that place, have understanding for each other's triggers and challenges. That's all a sacred partnership is. It's not perfection, it's not completion, it's the ability to be on a journey together and to support one another in that. My mom gave me this analogy of the bank. If you're both a bank account and one person's depositing always and the other person's withdrawing, one bank account's going to run out real quick, right? The only way to have two bank accounts sustained is both deposit and look for no withdrawal. That way both are filled up.
I love that. Yeah, love that.
Easy analogy, huh?
Yeah, I remember hearing this little analogy of like the mess is the masterpiece. Like there's supposed to be,
I like that,
misunderstandings. It's supposed to be there, because that's what forms each of you into this masterpiece, this masterful being of discernment and love and compassion and forgiveness.
Yeah. The beauty is in the unfolding.
Right.
Like, this is why we're all here, right? Love wants to experience itself. And you can almost say it wants to test itself out and put itself to the test, challenge itself. What can love not overcome? What obstacle is too great for love? And in all the history of the universe, the source has never found an obstacle too great for love. So it's like every interpersonal relationship we have is there for love to experience itself in that unique dynamic. And that's so beautiful, right? What ways does love want to show up and show its power and its strength in this relationship? I mean, that's where the magic is.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome, bro. I have a call in about 4 minutes, just as a heads up, but this is
Cool.
this has been super epic.
Super good conversation today. Do we have any questions about this topic we wanted to get to before we close?
Yep. Any questions? Now's a great time. I'm just scrolling through, checking this out here.
First come, first serve. Let's see what pops up.
Awesome. Love these comments. Love the community on here and the people that you attract, Aaron. They're just super epic.
Likewise, man. We've got so many amazing conscious people here in this comment section helping us out, giving questions, giving clarity. We appreciate that so much. And your questions have really helped guide this conversation. It's been so fun to really co-create this with you guys.
Yeah, totally. There's a question here. I think this is a question. What helps men learn this? Well, this video would be one.
This video.
It would be one way, because I didn't necessarily learn, at least in a way that was very efficient, until I became aware of what does it look like, what does it not look like, because it was like I just was in the clouds of going, I've seen my parents' relationship, they have a really great relationship, but is it, and that was like my ideal for the longest time, until I realized it's actually not my ideal. It is, you think of like our parents, that stage of consciousness, 50 years ago, whatever it might be, it's like, oh, of course the ideal relationship is like, find someone that loves you, that you can kind of put up with, and you can make some babies and get good jobs, and that we're
One
good.
of too many problems. Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. That's it. That's all we need. And
Yeah.
now it's like we're playing a different game, especially these generations that are coming in with this awareness, like crystallized, of who we are. So now it's like this standard, in a sense, has been put out there of like, oh, do you know it could be like this and like this? So I had to actually see what it could become first, to actually determine, oh, I want that,
Yeah.
and until I had that, there was nowhere to go for me. So that's why these videos could be so good.
Yeah. Men need role models for sure. If you can see it, you can have it, right? But I think the first most important point is you have to want it. The masculine has to want to know its true nature and to be empowered and exalted to its sacred essence. If it doesn't want it, it'll never learn it. But the moment you want something, the universe starts bringing it to you. So the universe will bring you whatever people, teachers, videos, whatever, that will teach you how to become the sacred masculine. But in another extent, really what I would say is that the masculine has to be willing to listen to the feminine, because the feminine will teach the masculine how to be empowered. Here's what I want. Here's what I need. Here's what fulfills me. And in listening to that feedback, the masculine learns how to become truly empowered in what it is. We talked about the sexual energy exchange, how it gets charged in a relationship. Like every time the masculine listens to the feminine, shows up with that strength, that groundedness, and they can work out the issue. You've felt this, right, Brandon? Your relationship goes to the next level. It's like you put one more brick on that building.
Totally.
Over time, it just becomes this absolute fortress, this stronghold between you. The charge is so powerful, and you can't cultivate that if you're just ripping it off and giving it away to a new person all the time. Building together with someone is such a powerful means for spiritual expansion.
Yeah. And it's so important to, like, one way to discern, am I doing this with the right person, building and whatnot, is if the things that are being asked of you, this is how you can support me, this is what I feel I need, whatever it might be. And it takes a clear mind. If you're triggered, then you can't see this clearly. And you could take this and just bypass it and distort it and, make it whatever. So you have to be in a place of peace. And if you're in a place of peace and true listening, and if I were asked, Brandon, I want you to just like walk around in a clown suit all day and just entertain me. And it's like, I go, okay, is it authentic? Like, is it me? Like, is there a part of me that's just like, wow, that I just move away from that. That's not something that is really authentically me. That's when you start seeing that there's a match. And some of these things you might not know until you do them. So it's also about trying. And this is where like the love languages could become a trap, or a liberator, because the trap
Yeah.
goes, the moment, you know, these love languages mean I love you. And if I don't do it, I'm not loving you. And so now our love becomes based on these conditions, right? And the opposite is actually true, but the form ends up looking kind of the same. You go, man, my love is not based on these conditions. Therefore, I have no resistance to these conditions. So therefore, it just excites me to put love into action. And that looks like conditions, or that looks
Yeah.
like things or actions. So it takes discernment to go, you're not going to have the best relationship in the world because you read the love languages book,
Right.
you know. And this is where I see so many people getting frustrated, but I'm giving them all of it, I'm doing all of it, and there's this expectation that they should be grateful, they should love me back in a certain way, they shouldn't get upset. So anytime we think the form is the answer, we're going to get deeper into the illusion. The form is not separate from the answer, but the form arises from the true answer, which is obviously these internal shifts.
Yeah. Well said, my friend. Well said.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get you in your meeting. I know you stayed a minute over for us, so I appreciate that.
All good.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for your questions as always. Brandon, do you know when our 4th session will be off the top of your head?
I think it's in my phone, in my calendar, so I don't remember. You know what? I think, don't quote me, but I think it's Friday.
I think you might be right, but we'll post it.
Yeah.
And we'll post on our stories a questionnaire for you to enter your questions in, because 4th session, we're just going to be taking a Q&A from you guys. So any leftover questions you have from any of these topics, bring them to the questionnaire and we'll get to those in session number 4. And with that, I say, Brandon, thank you as always for your wisdom and your participation. Always enjoy working with you, my friend.
Yeah, likewise, man. Love you. Love all you guys. Thank you for showing up and for the support.
Love you guys. Talk to you soon.
Cool. See ya.